racially charged emails about the president, documents that reveal movie plots, and embarrassing personal information that was on Sony's computer network.
There's 6,000 emails that are out there. What other things are happening within the company that makes the company vulnerable?
All right, let's put it all together here. First of all, Facebook owns you. In case you were wondering, Sony Pictures turning to the last desperate attempt to save them from themselves. That, of course, means legal action. And then we have one of the more macabre collectibles from our recent past that is now also the subject of legal doings. I was pleased to welcome back our legal analyst who takes us through the muck and mire of the judicial system. Heather Hansen joins us once again. Heather, pleasure to see you.
Hi, Ed. Great to see you.
Let's go ahead and start right out with Sony. This is interesting. Sony is now basically telling the media, you publish our hacked emails, and we're going to come after you with all of our legalese and everything. Frankly, I don't think Sony's got much to stand on at this point. They better worry about another way to take care of things other than going after legal action.
That's right, Ed. As I always say, you could do this without me. You're absolutely right. Sony is trying to go on the offense and saying that we're going to pursue suit and legal action against anybody who publishes it. The media who is publishing these emails and the contract information, they have the First Amendment right to do so. A Supreme Court case was decided that said that as long as the matter is of public concern and you're not involved in the illegality, the media can actually publish whatever it is that's out there as a result of illegality.
So let's look at that illegality, though, because Sony is claiming that this is stolen information. So then if we look at the legalese, if you're reprinting it, then are you then not part and parcel, I don't know, maybe an accessory after the fact when it comes out to using illegal and basically information that was garnered by a crime?
It's interesting because there's not a lot of case law on that. If you take stolen property like jewelry and then you reap profit from it, then it's called conversion, and that is a legal case. But here, when it's information and it's the media that is putting out information that's of public concern, the Supreme Court has said that that's okay. When it comes to lower courts, they've said that the conversion, that particular law, is not applicable to information. It's only applicable to goods.
Would you see any legal recourse whatsoever that Sony has in this case to stop anybody from doing anything with these hacked emails?
Listen, Ed, if I'm Sony, I'm more worried about the cases I'm going to have to defend against. You're going to have invasion of privacy lawsuits. You're going to have breach of contract lawsuits. You're going to have violation of Health Information Act lawsuits. And all of this information can be used in different types of lawsuits against Sony. So if there's emails about contracts between various people who work for them, do those emails support a discrimination case or a breach of contract case? They should be much more worried about defending against those types of suits than pursuing one right now.
Only two things come to mind. First of all, A, I hope the interview is funny, and B, I would not want to upset Angelina Jolie at any cost, no matter way, because that's going to come back to haunt you. All right, let's go ahead and talk about
that look she can give.
With that look she can give, no, forget it. Walk right away. Let's remember, this is Laura Croft right now. She'll come in, she'll chop somebody, she'll shoot them, and it's all done. There you go. Let's turn to this whole case about James Risen, the New York Times reporter who was involved in the publication of a book, the CIA. The book was called State of War in 2006. He had a CIA informant in there. The New York Times is basically protecting him, if you will, but now the Justice Department is after him. I guess they're going to pull back and they're not going to go after him, because this would seem like a classic case of the freedom of the press versus the government.
You would think so. It's actually a classic case to show us how limited the freedom of the press really is. There's no federal shield law, which means that there's no federal law that protects reporters. It's state by state. And in Virginia, where this case is being tried, there is no shield law. So the original court said that he did not have to testify, but the federal court said that he did. So the Department of Justice is in their rights to make him testify, but given sort of the atmosphere right now about whistleblowers and the freedom of the press and protecting people, I do not think that they would be smart to push their luck on this.
So you do think, however, though, that the government, the Justice Department, would have a case were it not for just what we're living in right now, the moment, the time?
Well, they have already won. The federal court has already said that they can force him to testify. And the Supreme Court, it went up to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court declined to review it. So that means that under the law, the Department of Justice can push for it. That decision was made months ago, and they have not yet done so. So the judge in the case told them by tomorrow they have got to let the other parties know whether or not they're going to do it. Because as a lawyer, it affects the way that you proceed with your case. All
right, now we mentioned this here at the top, and this is Facebook, the matter of your privacy. How much do they own? A lot of people on Facebook are putting up these posts now that says the content of my profile is all mine. They're citing law. They're putting things there which says you can't use what I'm putting here. Let's get right down to the point here. You give up your information freely, Facebook really can use it for whatever they want, can't they?
Well, and Facebook is actually trying to defend itself against that idea. They are subpoenaed, they're given search warrants rather, which is an important distinction. They've been served with search warrants in a number of different cases, and they have no choice but to give the government everything. So recently there were 381 search warrants served on Facebook. They had to get all of that data together. They were not allowed to tell the people whose Facebook information was subject to the search warrant. And they're now fighting that. And they've got Google behind them, they've got Twitter behind them, LinkedIn, all of these different technological companies which are saying that you, the government, should not be able to force us to give our users information.
Remember, if you don't want it out there, don't put it on your page. It's as very simple as that, always has been. Finally, about a minute and a half that we have left here. This is a little macabre, but it's interesting. The coffin that Lee Harvey Oswald was buried in, and then they exhumed his body in 1981, the coffin is now at the heart of a legal proceeding. Tell us about this.
It's fascinating because when he was buried, no one wanted to be a pallbearer. No one wanted to carry this coffin. And yet now they're fighting over the coffin itself. When he was exhumed, the coffin was no longer fit to rebury him, so it was put aside. And for all these years, it has sort of just sat there. Now the funeral home has sold the coffin for over $87,000. And Oswald's brother, who paid for the coffin back in the day, said that that's my coffin and you don't have the right to sell it. It's got legal issues out the years, and it's unusual because this type of thing rarely happens. The question for this judge is going to be who owns that coffin.
What would be your initial take? About 20 seconds we have left. Who do you think wins in this case?
The brother or the family. The nursing home has, the funeral home rather, has no right to the coffin. The brother or the family are the ones that are either paid for it, or if it's called a gift, they get it by will or by testate. So it's the brother or the family that I think will win this one.
A $300 coffin sold for $87,000, and they actually had to get the media. You're right, the media had to be there as pallbearers because nobody wanted to lower this guy in the ground at the time. Heather, it is always a pleasure to have you on the show. We'll look forward to doing it again next week. Have a great week, and thank you.
You too, Ed. Take care.
All right, other side of the intermission, we head for those ivy-covered walls of higher learning, where at the moment they're teaching future leaders about going in debt and not being ready for the real world.